Okay, let's unpack this. Spatial audio. For years, we've heard the term Dolby Atmos, marketed on Apple Music as spatial audio pitched as this incredible new creative tool, a way to place music in like a 3D bubble.
Right, the immersive experience.
Exactly. But if you are an artist or a label, your biggest question probably isn't, does it sound cool? The real deep dive mission today is, what's the return on investment? We're going beyond just the sonics to look at the true financial cost, the direct carrots, and maybe the competitive stick of immersing your music.
That's absolutely the crucial angle. We need to analyze this format, not just as some luxury feature, but as, well, potentially a mandatory competitive requirement in today's streaming world. Fundamentally, Dolby Atmos is an object-based 3D audio format. So unlike traditional stereo, it adds height and depth, letting you place sounds very specifically in a 360-degree space.
Okay.
And it acts as the new master tape for distribution, essentially. It automatically generates mixes optimized for headphones, sound bars, even full cinema systems.
And the scale of adoption really proves this isn't some niche thing anymore, right?
Not at all. Globally, there are over 6,000 cinemas equipped with Atmos already. And in music, well, data from just a couple of years back showed 2/3 of the Billboard Top 100 artists had already made sure at least one song was available in the format.
Wow, 2/3 back then.
Yeah. So our goal today is to connect those huge adoption rates directly to, well, your bottom line if you're a creator. We'll analyze the tangible financial incentives against that powerful, often unspoken, competitive pressure. We really need to figure out if the benefits genuinely outweigh that high barrier to entry, especially for independent artists.
Okay, let's start with the clearest inducement then, the carrot, as you put it. What concrete, measurable financial benefit is being offered by the big streaming platforms that's directly tied to adopting spatial audio?
This is probably the single strongest direct incentive out there right now, and it comes from Apple Music. They offer up to a 10% increase in royalties for streams of tracks that are available in spatial audio.
Okay, up to 10%. That sounds pretty significant on its own, but there's a key detail here, isn't there? Something that really makes this more of a financial calculation.
Precisely. That 10% boost is applied using a 1.1 factor in Apple's royalty calculations, whereas standard stereo tracks get a 1.0 factor. But here's the real kicker.
Yeah.
The bonus applies even if the user isn't actually listening in immersive mode. Just having the Atmos file available qualifies you for that higher payout, regardless of the listener's settings or hardware.
Whoa, okay. That completely changes the game for an artist deciding whether to invest. So if we use that industry average royalty rate, what is it, somewhere around US 0.004 to 0.004 to 0.005 per stream?
Yeah, in that ballpark.
What does that 10% bonus actually look like in dollars for, say, an active independent artist? Maybe someone getting 1 million streams a month on Apple Music.
Well, for that artist, the 10% factor could easily mean an extra US $400 to US $500 per month.
Just from that one platform?
Just from Apple, yeah. That's pure, guaranteed bonus revenue, just for having the file mastered and uploaded in the Atmos format. It makes a really clear financial argument for adopting the tech, totally separate from any creative or listening benefits.
Right. So are other major platforms doing the same thing, offering a direct percentage bonus like Apple?
Not currently, no. Amazon Music and Tidal, they definitely use Atmos content, they promote it, but they don't offer that direct percentage bonus tied specifically to the format itself. Now, Tidal's Hi-Fi Plus tier does use fan-centered royalties, which can benefit artists with loyal subscribers on that tier. But it's not that blanket 1.1 royalty factor that Apple provides across the board for Atmos tracks.
Got it. So Apple's really using this bonus as a lever to drive adoption.
Exactly. It gives them a unique edge in getting more content onto their platform in that format.
Okay, so we've established the carrot. A guaranteed 10% extra on Apple streams, regardless of how it's listened to. But, that money, strategically, it often feels like bait, right? Bait designed to push you towards the next thing, which might be more like a requirement.
Repetitive stick, yeah.
Exactly. Let's shift to the indirect benefits, the audience engagement, the visibility gains. Because what's really fascinating here is just the sheer speed of adoption. It points to massive competitive pressure beyond just that direct payout.
Oh, the velocity is staggering. The number of songs in Atmos on Apple Music, it's grown something like 5,000% since it launched back in 2021.
5,000%?
Yeah, and it doubled in just the last year alone. On top of that, streams of music actually consumed in spatial audio tripled in the 2 years leading up to 2023.
Okay, triple the streams. That's an undeniable trend. And we see this reflected right at the top of the charts too, don't we?
Absolutely. More than 80% of songs currently in the top 100 global daily chart are now available in Atmos.
80%.
Yeah. It really suggests that if you want to compete at that highest level, if you want your music treated like a major release, you pretty much have to be in this format now.
It's hard to get direct causal figures, right? Like, it's tough to prove the 10% bonus causes a specific stream increase.
Very difficult, yeah.
But there seems to be an incredibly strong correlation with getting included in those really valuable, curated premium playlists, those spatial audio-themed lists that the platforms push heavily.
The correlation is impossible to ignore. Anecdotally, you see artists sharing their data on forums, and they often report a modest but, significant 10-30% boost in streams for tracks that manage to land on those curated Atmos playlists.
Right.
The platforms are obviously heavily incentivized to promote the content that shows off their expensive premium features. Makes sense.
And this brings us to what is, right now, a crucial competitive differentiator.
Exactly. Since Spotify doesn't currently support Atmos as of, late 2025 anyway, having your music in Atmos gives you a distinct edge on Apple Music and Amazon Music. It's what gets you potentially featured in those premium sections, letting you sort of bypass tracks that are only available in standard stereo.
Okay, but let's challenge this a bit. The costs are substantial, particularly if you're an independent musician. That $400, $500 monthly bonus per million streams sounds nice, but it has to be weighed against a pretty hefty upfront investment, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. You're hitting the central conflict right there. The cost to mix just a single track in Atmos is significant. It often requires specialized engineers, maybe different gear. You're looking at anywhere from, say, US $500 up to maybe US $2,000 per track.
Per track. For an indie artist just trying to break even, that investment is massive. You see critics like the Association of Independent Music, ABE, they rightly point out that these costs inherently benefit the major labels way more.
Of course.
They've got in-house studios, they're doing high-volume albums. For a band maybe only pulling 10,000 streams a month, that $2,000 mixing cost, it could take years to recoup that, even with the Apple bonus factored in.
That's absolutely the reality, and the majors have committed heavily. I mean, look at Universal Music Group, UMG. They have a clear partnership with Dolby. They've integrated Atmos into their big studios like Capitol Records in the US.
Right.
They see this not as some optional expense, but as a fundamental part of delivering what they call a visceral experience. They could absorb a $2,000 mixing fee easily. A solo artist, much, much harder.
So the playing field is clearly tilted. Is there any mitigation, anything available for the independent artist to try and manage this financial pressure and still stay competitive?
Well, fortunately, Dolby does seem to recognize this cost barrier, and they've tried to lower the technical hurdle a bit. They set up the Dolby Atmos Music Accelerator.
Okay, what's that?
It's basically a free program offering mentorship, tutorials, guidance on distribution. It also helps creators get familiar with the tools like specific DAW audio workstations, particularly Pro Tools, to sort of ease that technical adoption curve.
So trying to level the technical playing field at least.
Exactly. But, the upfront investment in time, training, maybe even needing some new equipment, that remains a real gatekeeper. The cost is still there.
Okay, so let's tie this all back to the stakes for any artist who might be sitting there right now, deciding whether to fork out that $1,000, $2,000 mixing fee. What does this all mean if you choose not to adopt Atmos? What's the actual cost of inaction?
We have to connect this to the bigger picture, the macroeconomics of the industry. Streaming now accounts for 67% of all music industry revenue in the US. That's according to the RIA's 2024 data.
67%, wow.
So if 2/3 of the industry's money comes from streaming, and the streaming platforms are clearly prioritizing this premium Atmos content, well, declining to participate means you're kind of willfully cutting yourself off from a big chunk of that potential income stream.
And that competitive disadvantage, it sounds like it's a twofold penalty.
Exactly. First, there's the guaranteed financial penalty.
Yeah.
You just forfeit that guaranteed 10% royalty bonus on Apple Music, period. You're literally leaving money on the table for every single stream you get there.
Right.
Second, there's the visibility penalty. You face an estimated reduction in potential streams, maybe a 10-20% loss, roughly just due to reduced exposure. When the platform algorithms and curators are building those high-traffic premium playlists, they're going to favor content that's in Atmos over similar stuff that's only in stereo.
This really raises that core question, doesn't it? The one that summarizes our whole analysis. Given how the platforms are pushing this, is Atmos truly an incentive to reward artists for participating? Or has it effectively become the mandatory baseline just for basic market visibility and, staying in the game?
I think the data we're seeing overwhelmingly suggests the latter. When streams of the format have tripled, when 80% of the global top 100 uses it, Atmos isn't really a bonus feature anymore. It's rapidly becoming table stakes, just required for serious market contention.
So, just to synthesize the whole trade-off for you listening, you face a high upfront cost, typically $500 to $2,000 per track. That investment buys you a modest but guaranteed direct payout, maybe $400 to $500 per million streams on Apple. But maybe more importantly, it unlocks that critical indirect benefit, the potential 10-30% stream lift, and crucially, inclusion in those curated playlists.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it's interesting. The music industry adoption really mirrors what we've seen happen in the broader media world. This whole push is being driven in large part by the consumer hardware market, which is just exploding with Atmos compatibility.
How significant is that hardware push, like TVs and soundbars?
Massive. The Atmos TV market alone is projected to hit something like $12.6 billion by 2033. That's growing at a compound annual growth rate of over 18%. Consumers are actively buying the devices that support this format.
Okay.
And we see the same pattern in the film industry, right? Where, 49 of the top 50 films in the last 5 years were exhibited in Dolby Cinema. That's driving that lucrative premium box office segment.
So the music industry is basically just following the path blazed by film, requiring these premium formats to capture premium revenue.
Precisely. And, well, that leads us to the final, maybe provocative thought for you to mull over. If hardware compatibility and premium consumption are expanding so rapidly across the entire media ecosystem, how long can a giant platform like Spotify really afford to ignore this trend?
Interesting point.
How long before they're basically forced to enter the immersive audio market themselves? And if, or maybe when, they do, that 10% bonus Apple offers today, it won't feel like a benefit anymore. It'll just become the mandatory cost of entry everywhere. Something to think about.